vast, unforgiving silence of the cosmos. A single red ember hangs suspended like a dying coal against the infinite black. Slowly, relentlessly, it grows. It swells. It becomes a world. Dust storms the size of entire continents rage across its face, whipping fine regolith into towering devils that blot out the sun for weeks on end, turning the sky into a churning sea of rust and shadow. And then, rising from the bottom of the frame like a fragile jewel suspended in the darkness, Earth appears, our blue marble, spinning so peacefully, so deceptively safe, its oceans glistening, its clouds swirling in perfect white spirals, its continents glowing with the lights of 8 billion souls who have never known any home but this one small, vulnerable planet. But we know the truth now. We have always known it in the quiet moments when the lights are low and the news feeds scream warnings we have tried to ignore. Earth is not eternal. It never was. It is a cradle, yes, a beautiful, life-giving cradle that has nurtured every human who has ever lived, every dream, every war, every love story, every symphony, every first kiss, every last breath. All of it, every single one of those moments, confined to this one pale blue dot floating in the endless darkness. Yet cradles are temporary by their very nature. They are meant to be left behind when the child is ready to stand on its own. Humanity has become that child. We have become too successful, too powerful, too numerous for one single fragile world. This is the story of how we will step out of that cradle and onto the rust-red soil of Mars. This is the story of survival against odds that would have broken any previous generation. This is the story of becoming a multi-planet species before it is too late. This is the story of our insurance policy against extinction. The title burns into the screen in glowing white letters that look as if they were forged from molten regolith itself. Mars 2050. A deep bass hit rumbles through the theater speakers like the heartbeat of a new world being born. The music swells, orchestral strings layered with electronic pulses that feel both ancient and futuristic, the sound of humanity reaching across the void. We are no longer merely explorers. We are survivors. And the cosmic clock that has ticked for 4.5 billion years is ticking louder than ever before. Let us begin at the beginning, with the question that keeps astrophysicists awake at night and keeps mission planners drawing new blueprints at 3 a.m. Why Mars? Why not stay here where the air is breathable, the gravity is comfortable, the water flows freely, and the sky is blue? Because Earth, for all its beauty, is not safe. It never has been, not in the long term, not on the scale of civilizations. Consider the asteroids first. NASA's Near-Earth Object Program has already cataloged more than 30,000 objects that cross our orbital path. Some are the size of cities. Some are the size of mountains. One day, statistically within the next 100 million years, but possibly tomorrow, an object large enough to cause global extinction will arrive. We have seen the scars left behind. The Chicxulub crater in Mexico, 66 million years ago, the dinosaur killer. We have the evidence locked in the geological record. Iridium layers that fell from the sky like deadly snow. Shocked quartz crystals formed only under the pressure of an impact the size of a nuclear war. Global firestorms that burned forests across entire continents. A years-long winter that starved the food chain until only the smallest creatures survived. We know it can happen again. We have the telescopes watching the sky 24 hours a day. We have the numbers. And the numbers say we are overdue. Then there are the supervolcanoes. Yellowstone, Toba, Campi Flegrei, sleeping giants beneath our feet that do not merely erupt when they wake. They blot out the sun for years. They drop global temperatures by 10 degrees Celsius or more. They collapse agriculture worldwide. They starve billions. The last super eruption at Toba 74,000 years ago reduced humanity to perhaps as few as 10,000 breeding pairs. We barely survived. The genetic bottleneck is still visible in our DNA today. We carry the memory of that near death in every cell of our bodies. Climate change is not a distant threat in some far-off century. It is already rewriting the rules of the planet we call home. Sea levels are rising at accelerating rates measured in millimeters per year that compound into meters per decade. Coral reefs are dying at speeds never seen in the fossil record. Permafrost across the Arctic is thawing, releasing ancient methane that amplifies the warming in a feedback loop scientists have named the methane bomb. Wildfires, once rare seasonal events, now rage across continents for months at a time, turning skies orange and filling the air with smoke that travels around the globe. Entire nations are already planning their retreat from the coastlines their ancestors called home for thousands of years. And this is only the beginning. And then there is the oldest threat of all, ourselves. Nuclear arsenals still sit on hair-trigger alert in multiple countries. Engineered pandemics, whether accidental leaks from laboratories or deliberate acts by rogue actors, grow easier to create with every advance in synthetic biology. Geopolitical tensions rise as resources dwindle and climate migrants cross borders by the millions. One miscalculation, one rogue actor, one spark in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the chain reaction could end industrial civilization in days, perhaps hours. We have become too interconnected, too fragile, too dependent on systems that can fail catastrophically if even one link breaks. Dr. Elena Voss, senior astrophysicist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, put it plainly during a late-night conversation in her Pasadena office, her voice quiet but urgent. We have become too successful for one planet. 8 billion people, all depending on the same thin layer of atmosphere, the same finite resources, the same fragile biosphere. Statistically, a civilization-ending event is overdue. Mars is not a luxury. It is not a science project. It is the second drawer where we keep the backup copy of humanity. This is why we go to Mars. Not for glory, not for flags, not for tourism. We go because staying on Earth is a bet we cannot afford to lose. Mars is our insurance policy against extinction. It is the backup drive for the human species. It is the place where, if the worst happens here, a small group of us can keep the flame of humanity burning until the smoke clears and we can return, or until we build something new and permanent on that red world. Now let us look at the two planets side by side, as if they were placed on a cosmic scale for us to judge. Earth is a lush garden, 21% oxygen, a thick blanket of atmosphere that protects us from the worst of the sun's radiation, a magnetic shield generated by the molten iron core that turns away the deadly solar wind and cosmic rays, gravity at 1 g that holds our bones together, our muscles strong, our hearts efficient, water in 3 states, liquid, solid, vapor, flowing freely across 70% of the surface. Temperatures that allow life to thrive from the equator to the poles. Life itself, in all its staggering diversity, from microbes to blue whales, from redwood forests to coral reefs. Mars is different. Mars is a cold desert the exact size of all Earth's continents combined. Its atmosphere is only 0.6% as thick as ours, 96% carbon dioxide, almost no oxygen. You would suffocate in seconds if you stepped outside unprotected. Your blood would boil in your veins from the near vacuum. Gravity is a gentle 38% of what you feel right now, enough to keep you from floating away like on the International Space Station, but not enough to stop your muscles from wasting or your heart from struggling over decades of continuous exposure. Temperatures swing wildly. A pleasant 20 degrees Celsius on a good summer day at the equator, dropping to minus 153 degrees Celsius at night or near the poles. No global magnetic field means cosmic rays and solar flares slam into the surface unimpeded, 200 times the radiation dose you receive on Earth every year. Liquid water cannot exist on the surface for long. It either freezes instantly or boils away into vapor because the pressure is so low. Yet Mars holds everything we need if we are clever enough and determined enough to use it. Water ice is buried beneath the regolith in vast quantities, enough to fill the Great Lakes many times over. Minerals for building, for glass, for steel, for concrete. Carbon dioxide we can turn into fuel and breathable air. Sunlight 24 hours a day during the long Martian day. It is the only other world in the solar system where humans can realistically land, survive, and one day thrive. It is not easy. It is not comfortable. It will test every limit of our technology, our biology, our psychology. But it is possible. And possibility is what separates extinction from survival. For billion years ago, Mars was not the dead world we see today. It was a paradise. Rivers carved deep canyons wider than the Grand Canyon. Lakes the size of entire countries shimmered under a thicker atmosphere. Volcanoes taller than Everest belched gases that kept the planet warm. Rain fell. Oceans may have covered entire hemispheres. The evidence is everywhere we look. The Perseverance rover landed in Jezero Crater, once a 50-kilometer-wide lake with a river delta that would have made the Mississippi jealous. We have found ancient riverbeds, shorelines, clay minerals that only form in liquid water. We have found organic molecules, the building blocks of life, preserved in mudstones that have lain undisturbed for billions of years. We have found evidence of ancient hot springs, hydrothermal vents, places where life on Earth first emerged. But the margin for error is zero. A single micrometeorite puncture, a mist resupply window, a solar flare that overwhelms shielding, a psychological collapse inside the habitat. One leak, one bad weld, one contaminated water line, and the entire population dies, terraforming the entire planet. Centuries away at best, perhaps impossible. We will live in sealed cities for generations. The danger will never fully leave us. Yet we will succeed. Mars will become the second cradle of humanity. Children born there will look up at a butterscotch sky and call it normal. Earth will become the distant blue memory, beautiful, but no longer the only home. We will have become a multi-planet species. And from Mars we will one day reach the asteroids, the moons of Jupiter, and beyond. So the question is no longer whether we can go to Mars. The question is whether we have the courage to stay. Should we colonize another world? Who owns Mars? These are questions our grandchildren will answer. But one truth is certain. If we remain only on Earth, we are betting the entire future of our species on a single fragile planet. The stars are calling. The red world waits. Will we answer? No dirt farming at first. Hydroponic towers will rise under LED lights, growing lettuce, tomatoes, potatoes, and nutrient film. Aeroponics will mist roots with water vapor. Algae walls will scrub carbon dioxide and produce protein. Lab-grown meat and cellular agriculture will supply burgers and steaks without a single animal ever setting foot on Mars. The first colonists will eat better than many people on Earth today, all from recycled waste and local resources. Your spacesuit will be a second skin, lightweight, flexible, made of advanced graphene and self-sealing polymers. Heads-up displays will project vital signs, radiation levels, suit integrity. Temperature control will keep you comfortable from -100 to +20. 8 hours of oxygen. Built-in tools. The suit is no longer a clumsy balloon. It is an extension of your body. Autonomous swarms of construction robots will arrive years before humans, building the first habitats, laying power lines, preparing landing pads. Pressurized rovers will let crews explore hundreds of kilometers from base. Artificial intelligence will become the silent partner, diagnosing problems, predicting failures, even offering companionship during the long Martian nights.